Okay. So before this interruption, what I was saying is, make sure you play last week's video on bonds, capital, or on bonds and on APV. As you have noticed, there's a 50-mark question allocated to APV. So that one is a very important topic, which was December 2019. And various other questions that I mentioned in that particular video towards the end, on where you can practice, you can have a lot of question practice on APV. So today what we want to focus on is appraising foreign projects. And I'm happy because I asked them, some of you have played, others are yet to play the videos on bonds and APV. Make sure you play those. They are still obtainable in our WhatsApp class group. If you don't have those, let me know so that I can forward them to you once again. Okay, so today, coming to today's discussion, we want to talk about appraising foreign projects. So this is my Excel document, which I'll be from time to time jotting down stuff here. Appraising foreign projects. Appraising foreign projects. Appraising foreign projects. Some call it international project appraisal. It has got various funny terms. Others, they just call it advanced investment appraisal. Whichever way, it's the same thing. So quite a lot of things that we consider here, which I want to bring to your attention. Some of them you have done, you have covered some of the concepts when you're doing F9, but allow me again to bring the concepts up to speed quickly. You know, let's say risks faced by exporters. Risks faced by exporters and importers. You know this? You know, in the business of international trade, or even international projects, or whatever you want to call it, a lot of risks are faced by these particular businesses. Whether you're importing raw materials or you're doing what, these are the risks. There is transaction risk. What is transaction risk, Kuda? You can unmute and talk to yourself. Or it's exchange rate risk. What is that? Yes, Kuda. Go ahead. What do you understand by transaction risk? You know? Okay.
Transaction risk. It's risk that refers to unfavorable effects from foreign exchange rate fluctuation.
Yes. It's a risk that the cash flows you're expecting to pay or receive may actually fluctuate in its domestic currency equivalent due to fluctuations in exchange rates. Whenever you're expecting to receive foreign cash flows or to pay cash flows in foreign currency, the domestic currency equivalent may not be as you were expecting due to fluctuations in exchange rate. That's transaction risk, and you'd not, especially in Zim context, we are not new to this particular risk because we always pay a CCA, and we would talk about, no, the exchange rate is causing me to pay more or to pay less. That's transaction risk. Now, how transaction risk can be managed or hedged is the subject matter that we shall discuss on derivatives in later on, or is the subject matter that you might have knowledge of. You can hedge transaction risk using forward exchange contracts, money market hedge, or even internal hedging methods like invoicing in domestic currency, etc. All those are ways of managing this particular risk, right? And again, there's another aspect, another risk here. There is economic risk. What is economic risk? You know, it's simply exposure to favorable or unfavorable events due to changes in economic conditions. Economic risk. What is changing there are economic conditions and economic variables. Issues like inflation, you know, all these can affect quite a lot. Inflation, unemployment, GDP growth, GDP, inflation, unemployment, GDP, money supply, even if quite a lot. These are risks that you face, and you know, when you want to manage these risks, I shall show you how you manage these risks. And then another risk that we face is political and legal risks. Political and legal. We all appreciate what is obtaining in South Africa. Quite a lot is obtaining in South Africa. Political and legal risk. So political and legal risk is simply exposure to favorable or unfavorable events due to political parties and even the laws and regulations which they enact. This is so important. What is obtaining in South Africa is something that is really unfathomable. Imagine if you had a project in such a country where people are just looting things anyhow. You know, it's the like of which we have never seen such looting in our all generations. That remember our generation. Have you ever seen such? I'm sure it's the first of its kind. Even in a war situation like in Iraq or even in Syria, they've never experienced such. So that tells you that if you're doing projects, then there's a lot of adverse exposures that you're exposed to that. So politicians should do something about it. And the decisions, you know, all these who are causing these social unrest, they are pinning the blame on politicians. So political risk, you know, if it looks at democracy, corruption, those in power, they voted to be in the office. If not, they've got other dependent risks like civil unrest, quite a lot of other things. All this distorts what we call strategic certainty, meaning as we are trying to invest in these companies, you won't be in a position to plan in a strategic sense. No wonder why we say legal. There are other legal risks which may threaten the viability of foreign projects. Laws and regulations like in Zimbabwe, the registration of foreigners to do projects in Zimbabwe, that alone might be a hindrance or an enhancement to a foreign project. Issues to do with restrictions on remittances. You know, you may generate cash flows in Zim here, but you are domiciled in UK. You may not repatriate the cash flows you are generating due to laws and regulations which are enacted. Issues to do with taxes, registration requirements, quite a lot. You have to consider this. Then another risk is we said political and legal risk. Another risk is translation risk. You know, translation risk has nothing to do with actual exchange rates. No. Get this right, guys. But by translation risk, what we are saying is, as you are undertaking a project in another country, you have assets in that country. And these assets, when you are preparing financial statements, the assets must be part and parcel of your balance sheet assets. Even the liabilities, they should be part and parcel of your liabilities. But you have to translate them from that whatever currency they are presented in into your functional or presentation currency. So the exchange rate that you use at each reporting date may cause these assets to increase or decrease in value as you are translating them at reporting date. We call this translation risk. So translation risk cannot be managed. You can't hedge translation risk because each time you are preparing financial statements, you have to convert foreign denominated assets and liabilities into your functional or presentation currency. So in so doing, there's no way you can really manage or hedge translation risk. You get that? Okay. Quite a lot of other risks, guys. These are not like the only risks that we face, like translation, economic, political, and legal. A lot of other risks. But how do you manage these risks? Management of risks. Oh, sorry. Management of risks. Oh, I'm sure you are doing you have done SBL. If you haven't, some of you, I am teaching you SBL. There's a framework we use for risk management. You know, when you are facing these risks, obviously you need to manage them somehow. And there are quite a lot of ways you can use to manage these risks. And the most common one, the most common way of managing these risks is the TARA framework. You still remember TARA framework, guys? Let me bring you up to speed with what this framework is. From if I can, I can just link it up here. TARA framework for risk management. TARA framework for risk management. This is the framework that we use to manage risks. The framework that we use to manage risks. So I'm opening it. I want to show you. TARA means transfer, accept, avoid, and reduce. That's TARA framework here. Don't worry, this is the subject matter of this subject is SBL. It's SBL, but we examine it even when you're doing, we examine it even if you are doing AFM. So you can see here what is displayed on the, okay, let me download it first so that you can see it clearly. All right. Well, whilst it's taking long to download, allow me to explain it. Oh, it is downloaded. Let me open it. Let me open it. It's opening, but as it is opening, allow me to even explain it from this part. I'm sure you are seeing on the top right of your screen here. Risks, you know, the TARA framework characterizes risks using two main variables. The TARA framework, it characterizes risks using two main variables. Allow the picture to open. It's opening. You may say, are you now teaching us SBL? No. But this is assumed knowledge. And if I just say you know it from SBL, I'm not doing a service to you because I know it's examined. So it would make enough sense if I actually show it to you how the examiner requires these particular items answered. For whatever reason, and I can explain it still on this end. The TARA framework characterizes risk on the basis of probability or frequency of occurrence and impact. By impact, we mean the hazard on the firm. Some call it heat map. Others call this particular thing heat map. Meaning there is a risk which has got low frequency of occurrence and low impact. What you do with such a risk is you accept it. But when you are answering an exam, you don't just say accept. No. You just say suppose it is a project we were thinking of doing. So instead of saying accept, you would say let us continue with the project. That's the better way instead of just saying accept. Let's say we do have a risk which has got high probability of occurrence and low impact. High probability of, like exchange rate risk in Zimbabwe. It has got high probability of occurrence, but nowadays, because of the auction system we are using, it has got a low impact. What do you do with such a risk? You reduce it. Now the question is, suppose you want to advise me as a manager of Atlantis, and if you just say reduce, you confuse me more. Rather, you would say, what we do with this is we can use forward exchange contracts to reduce risks. In other words, the word reduce is not a solution, Cuthbert, but it's a generic term. It's a class of policies, actionable policies you can undertake. So I don't want a situation where you say reduce and then you move on. No, you say we can reduce the risk by taking a forward exchange contract. Try to put something actionable. Try to put it in an actionable way. Now, there are risks which have got low probability of occurrence, meaning low frequency of occurrence, but have got high impact. Such risks you transfer. Like look at what is obtaining in South Africa. In South Africa, they don't demonstrate and loot always. So the risk of looting, the frequency of this is very low. But notice what the impact it has if it does happen. So such risks you transfer. But when you're answering in an exam, I don't want you to just say transfer. You confuse me more. What I want is to put the word transfer into something actionable. That makes quite a lot of sense. Put the word transfer into something actionable, like transfer the risk by taking an insurance policy. You can actually take insurance policy. You know, for those weird insurance policies, for these particular upheavals which are bedeviling South Africa, for those weird insurance policies, they can get compensation for this. So they have transferred the risks. Are you not seeing there's a difference between just telling me as a director to say transfer the risk and actually putting it into something actionable? You have to tell me what really are you saying transfer. Otherwise, if you just say transfer and move on, you can see you end up confusing me more. Okay. So you are seeing the Tara framework. And lastly, amongst these risks, you check the one with high probability of occurrence and high impact. This one you have to avoid. You have to avoid, like, you can't be going to invest in Syria where you know there's war and they enjoy wars in that part of the world. Even if the Americans are saying we are leaving Afghanistan because by our estimates, it's now stable. The very day they announce that, they unleash hell on the population. You wonder what sort of a society is this? And if you want to invest, clearly you can't be going there for investment. Such, they require you to avoid altogether. Avoid altogether. Because you can drill an oil rig, you can have an oil rig as a project, and before you know it, the Taliban forces everyone out and they assume ownership of it, and you lose your entire investment. So avoid. When you're answering that question, I don't want the answer to just say avoid. You can say, choose nations with investor-friendly policies. Choose nations which are stable. Choose. That is called avoiding. So if you just say avoiding, what are you saying to a director? If you just say reduce, what are you saying to a director if you say let us reduce risks? Because directors, they need something which is actionable. So if you just say transfer, what are you saying? So the TARA framework, transfer, accept, reduce, avoid, these are generic answers. Within each generic answer, you have to tell directors something which is actionable. Like, let us transfer the risks by taking out an insurance policy. You've now presented it in a manner which we directors now understand what you mean by transfer. So for that, you can now say, let us reduce the risk by entering into a forward exchange contract. If we are sourcing materials from Africa, from Europe, let us have 3-year contracts where we fix the price. So if the price of materials are fluctuating over time and we have got a forward price arrangement, we've entered into a contract to fix the price for 3 years. In so doing, we have reduced the risk. You can't say we have avoided, you've just reduced it. Okay, so are you not seeing this is how directors characterize risks? And it's called TARA framework. And at your level, we routinely ask this. This is routinely examined. This is something that is always examined. I'm opening a question, and whilst I'm opening a question, allow me to move on. Okay, it was quick enough. It was very quick. Okay, let me see which paper is it. So if you played last week's video on adjusted present value, you'd notice we illustrated with questions on this. I mean on bonds. On bonds and APV, actually, yes. We used questions also in this particular paper, but principally on APV, because the entire question, which is question number 1, was dedicated to APV. So the reason I open it and tell you about the previous video is for me to ensure that you don't even make a mistake of saying I don't want to play the video. You can see number 1, adjusted present value. It is the same question we used in that video. So please make sure you play it. Make sure you play. We use this same question here. Now, I notice economic risks and risk categories. The question is now saying, now I'm reading the last part. I'm not reading the entire thing. OCAN categorizes the risks inherent in its projects according to severity of their impact, which is called probability of occurrence. I mean, severity of their impact, which we just referred to as impact, and frequency of their occurrence, which is called probability. So the risks can be severe, meaning high impact and high frequent, or the risk can be not severe but frequent, not severe but frequent. Sorry guys, try to mute to minimize background noise for your colleagues. And then the risk can be severe but not frequent, and even neither severe nor frequent. Are you not seeing this? These words, they are characterizing TARA framework. What they are referring to is the severity of the risk is the impact. Frequency of the risk is the probability of a risk. So if they say it's neither severe or nor less frequent, they are telling you that it's low probability and low impact. So that's exactly what they are saying here. And then jumping to the question on this part, it's saying if evaluate your report. They're saying your report should evaluate and justifies which project Okan should choose. Oh, well, this one is not it. This is question number D. It's saying discuss how each category of risk in terms of severity and frequency may be managed. Are you not seeing it? May be managed. So this question, we do have a lot of students. Some students, after coming across such a question, they know that my say told me that we use TARA framework. And as part of their answer, they just answer the examiner and say, accept, reduce, avoid, transfer. Clearly, you are not seeing from what I have just said before now, that such is not how you could answer it. Because if I'm a director and I say, can you advise how I manage these risks? And then you just say, transfer. You are confusing me more. Put it in something which I can act upon. Put it in a manner which is actionable, like take an insurance policy to transfer the risk. You can see the reason I open a question is to ensure that you understand what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about. Because you may say, are you now teaching us SPL? Because we once did this in SPL. Notice this is optional papers. Optional papers, the examiners are free to ask everything on whatever area they want. They can even ask F1 in this paper. So have you noticed that in that paper, the 50-mark question contained a PV? It contained a PV and it equally contained hedging. But what I wanted to focus on is, you'd notice we focused more on this in that video where we were calculating the APV for this particular question. Okay, I said today we have got quite a lot of issues to consider. So management of risks, TARA framework discussed. We have discussed TARA framework. TARA framework. So another is determination of forward. Determination of forward or forecast exchange rates. Determination of forward or forecast exchange rates. You know what this actually mean here is. What it means is, because you are now evaluating a project in which cash flows are materializing in foreign currency, and this project may span for 5 years, you now need to forecast exchange rates so that you have to convert those cash flows into your actual, cash flows for the currency in question. So that's determination of forward and forecast exchange rates. There are quite a lot of ways we can use to forecast exchange rates or to forecast forward exchange rates, and this is called purchasing power parity and the interest rate parity. I'm sure you've come across these terms from your earlier discussions. So we do have purchasing power parity. That's one. PPP. Say we put it like this. This states that in the long term, comma, exchange rate movements reflect inflation rates differentials of the currencies involved. Inflation rates differentials of the currencies, inflation rate differentials of the currencies involved. That's purchasing power parity. In other texts, they call it the law of one price. It says that in the long term, the price of a commodity which is being traded in two different currencies is the same. What can make the price look seemingly different is just the differences in inflation rates between the currencies involved. So using this particular parity condition, we call it a parity condition. It says the spot exchange rate at time t, which we denote in brackets as ST, is given by, so the purchasing power parity. So it's not a trace match. It's given by, you say ST equals T equals, you say S0, you say ST equals, okay. All right. Sorry for that. ST equals S0 S0 times, open bracket, 1 plus HC, close bracket, over, open bracket, 1 plus HB, or parity. In this case, S0 is the current spot exchange rate. Current spot exchange rate. That's your S0. And then HC is annual inflation rate. Price currency of the price currency. HB is the annual inflation rate of the base currency. You need to understand these terms. There's a base currency, there's a price currency, and there is spot exchange rate. Let me explain to you what I mean by base. You know, if the exchange rate is given like this, suppose the exchange rate is given as pounds per dollar equals 0.8942. Suppose you have got this exchange rate. You know, this exchange rate means the dollar is being priced in currency, in pounds. The dollar is being priced in currency. So the pound, price currency. Price currency is the currency which is pricing a unit of the other. So if I have got, so in other words, the pound is the price currency and dollar is the base currency. Because if you don't know which one is which, this formula can cause you problems. So suppose I have an exchange rate which is saying US dollar 0.1764 equals rand equals then I have equals 1 rand. What does this mean? It would mean that here the dollar is the price currency. Because it is the one which is pricing the rand. And the rand is this currency. You get that? So what is the definition of a base currency? It's a currency given as one or currency given as unit. Currency given as unit. Don't say base currency means home currency. No. It's a currency which is given as one. In this case here, it's pounds per dollar, so the dollar is base because it's one. It is the currency which is being priced. Like the unit of a rand is being priced in so many dollars. The unit of a dollar is being priced in so many pounds. Always notice that these are annual inflation rates. And if you are forecasting the exchange rate for a period in less than a year, the exchange rate, the rates can be time apportioned. The rates can be time apportioned. And now let us look at another. So we said number one is purchasing power parity. You understand this, and then number two, it's interest rate parity. Interest rate parity. Now this is a parity condition. It's a parity condition. It stems from the international Fisher effect. It stems from the international Fisher effect. National Fisher effect. Which states that the ratio of inflation rates, of nominal interest rates between two currencies. Nominal interest rates between two currencies is equal to the ratio of their inflation rates. Equal to the ratio of their inflation rates. So we are saying the ratio of nominal interest rates between two currencies is equal to the ratio of their inflation rates. That's international Fisher effect. So Fisher effect is saying the ratio of inflation rates is equal to the ratio of interest rates. So if you are not given inflation rates, like in this example, suppose you are given interest rates, you can now use interest rates to forecast forward exchange rates. Thus, nominal interest rates can be used. Ratio of nominal interest rates. Ratio of nominal interest rates can be used as ratio of nominal interest rates can be used to forecast forward exchange rates. Forward exchange rates follows. So this is really fantastic stuff. You can actually use the ratio of nominal interest rates to forecast forward exchange rates as follows. How do you go about it? You say fake or forward. It's a forward exchange rate. It's like a rate you fix now for a future date. Forward rate for time t equals S0 times open bracket 1 plus IC 1 plus IB. In this case, 1 plus IC over 1 plus IB. In this case, these ones are now interest rates. So S0 is still the current spot exchange rate, and then IC is the nominal interest rate. For the price currency, and IB is the nominal interest rate for the base currency. So there you go. This is interest rate parity, and this is the interest rate parity and the purchasing power parity. So you would notice that the base, you now understand what we mean by base currency. Don't make a confusion between what is the base currency and what is the price currency. Otherwise, your formula will not come out right if you confuse the base and the price currency. You refer to that when you play the video. Make sure you pause as you are playing the video. Pause on that and understand it in greater detail. So let us have some illustrations, because I know you now understand these illustrations. Tino, are you in the class? Are you in there, my friend? Tino, can you unmute and talk to yourself?
Yes, I'm there.
Are you not seeing that as you say I don't change? This is the same stuff I was teaching you when we were doing F9, and I'm still on it. And now the question is, are you still on it? Okay. So we have here current spot exchange rate. Exchange rate. It's pound per dollar. Now in this case, let me say pounds per dollar equals 0.8942, the one I had used above, and then pound inflation rate. Pound inflation rate. Inflation rate. It's 8% per annum. 8%. And then we've got dollar inflation rate. Dollar inflation rate. Dollar inflation rate is let's say 6% per annum. And then we've got pound interest rate. Pound interest rate is let's say 10%, and then dollar interest rate. Dollar interest rate 7%. So there you go. Are you not seeing interest rate should be greater than inflation rate? Otherwise, that's how you can get your interest in monetary terms. Now, these are the requirements of the question. It's a matter of just recalling so that we don't take chances, as you say. Number one, use the 3-month forecast exchange rate. Month forecast money forward and exchange rate. To get a 2-year exchange rate. The question might be, say, why is it when you are using interest rate, you are saying forward, but when you are using inflation rate, you are saying PPP? It's because interest rates are fixed by the central bank normally. So if interest rates are fixed, the exchange rate you get is a fixed rate, which is called forward. But nobody can fix inflation rates. So what you get is just a forecast. I'm sure that makes the difference is clear to that. So solution. Are you not seeing as you say, I like typing? I'm sure by now one should ask and say, why is it you get a lot of strength in typing? Can you imagine? I wrote the notes, FM notes by Mr. Mpass. It was me typing in excess of 150 pages. And when I'm teaching, I'm still typing. You know, I had an option of opening my notes and just highlighting on the go and move on and say, these are my notes after all. But this is to tell you that I don't want a situation where you say speed is my issue. If from the first lecture to date you see or say typing and I never get tired, and I don't teach a single subject, I teach 28 subjects for both CIMA and ACCA and other courses. And all the 28 subjects, you all write in 3 months. You all have your exams in 3 months. So if I say, if you tell me that, say, I'm having a problem with AFM, are you not seeing? Are you? I don't even understand. Imagine from lecture number 1 to date, I just type things from my head. I don't even open my notes after all. I wrote the notes. I gave you the notes. I don't even open them. But I explain everything there in a manner which I want to cover quite a lot of ground. So I then use this Excel to type. This should challenge you. It shows the amount of effort and the willpower that I put to a subject. It is at my fingertips. I don't even think when I'm typing. I'm just saying. It's like saying to you good evening. I'm not even thinking. Why am I telling you this? I want you to be challenged. Put the will. I know you understand, but what causes you then to pass? It's an escalation from understanding, which is called will. Commanding your being to like a subject, not just to understand it. The will is what is required. I will be fine-tuning you on this come August when you're doing final revision tapes. For now, let me focus on what I'm doing here. So here you have solution one. It's saying use PPP to determine 90-day forward. So when you're using PPP, you say ST equals. So this is like your formula. And then you are looking for 90-day forward. So you are now saying S 90-day, S 3 months equals. T means time. You say current spot exchange rate. Now the spot exchange rate is 0.8942. So there you go. You say equals 0.8942. So there you go. And you say times 1 plus HC. In this case, HC meaning inflation rate. Remember H is inflation rate, and in this case C is the price currency, which is the pound. So it's inflation rate for the pound, which is 8%. So you come here and say 1 plus 0.08 bracket 3/12. Why 3/12? Because that one was per annum. So you have to reduce it to 3 months. We are looking for 3 months forecast. And then over inflation rate for the dollar, which is the price currency. In this case, it's 6%. So it's 1 plus 0.06. And notice what is more. Okay, I still have to multiply it by 3/12. What is multiplied by 3/12 there is the rate. So it becomes 0.8942 times, it's 1/4 of 8, 1,02 divided by 1,015. You go 1,02 divided by 1,015. So what is the answer? So you can now sort out the mess and say it equals 0.8942 multiplied by 1,02 over 1,015. So 0.8986. This is now the exchange rate. 0.8986, like this, 8986. So you can simply say pounds per dollar. Pounds per dollar equals 0.8986. This is the exchange rate after 90 days. The forecast exchange rate after 90 days, the 90-day forecast. So you can actually use interest rate parity to get 1 year forward exchange rate. So we have got forward exchange rate calculated like this. Now, if you are looking for a 1 year forward, you then do it like this. You then say F0, and then 1 year, meaning forward exchange rate now, which we fix now, that's 0, but which is a rate in 1 year's time, it will be 0.8942. by this time you use interest rates, but they are already, per annum 10% and 7%, so there is no need to time apportion them. So it's times 1.10 over 1.07 equals, so you work out the rate, it will come out as 0.8942 multiplied by 1.1 over 1.07. So this is the 1 year forward exchange rate. To 4 decimal places it becomes, so you're now saying pounds per dollar equals 0.9193. This is the 1 year forward exchange rate. Now, when you are doing F9, normally you used to perform your computations to up to 1 year, like up to 1 year forward. Rarely have you performed your computations beyond 1 year, like 2 years. So this is the purpose of this discussion now, because your project doesn't last for a year, it may last for 3 years. So you say 2 year forecast, using PPP, meaning purchasing power parity. Remember this, the formula is still that ST equals, this is the formula. Now you now have the current is still 0.8942 times, you are now using the inflation rates for 2 years. So what you do is you multiply, you say 1, the inflation rate is 1.08 like this squared divided by 1.06 squared. Remember, squared is shift 6. I mean, to the power, it's shift 6. So you can actually rewrite it like this. You can rewrite it like equals 0.8942 bracket 1.08 over 1.06 close bracket squared. You still get the same answer. So what do you get? So equals 0.8942 times open bracket 1.08 divided by 1.06 close bracket squared. So I'm getting 0, to 4 decimal places 92, 93. So this is the 2 year forecast, which will be pound per dollar equals 92.93. So this is how you calculate, you forecast exchange rate. So if they say for 3 years, you just say to the power 3. If they say for 4 years, to the power 4. Now it is becoming increasingly important at this juncture, because your project doesn't last for a single year. It lasts for quite a lot of years. So to the extent of that, this becomes very, very important. Now you may ask, say, what are we doing? We are doing appraising international projects, but we started by the basic concepts. Risks faced by exporters and importers, determination of exchange rates, etc. Now, let us now have steps when appraising projects in foreign currency. Steps when appraising a project for a foreign project. Steps when appraising a foreign project. How then do you appraise a foreign project? Okay. Now you notice there's really no fundamental there's really no fundamental difference between a foreign project and a normal and our normal project. The only thing is the cash flows are materializing in foreign currency, and there's a lag to first get them and then translate them or convert them. This is the only leg. Cash flows are in foreign currency, so it's a two-legged approach. You can see it that way, right? You first get them, the cash flows in that particular currency first, and what do? Convert them to your domestic currency and then discount them like before. But if exchange rates are not given to convert them, you then determine the exchange rates using either purchasing power parity or interest rate parity, depending on, are you given inflation rates or are you given interest rates? If you're given interest rates, interest rate parity. If you're given inflation rate, that's inflation rate parity. Simple as that. So let us take it. That's what we want to say. So step number one. Step number one is determine project cash flows. Define project cash flows in foreign currency. Actually, project net cash flows. Get to the net cash flows in foreign currency. Foreign currency is detailed in earlier chapters. Just calculate net cash flows from the project as if nothing has happened, but this time make sure you're calculating them in foreign currency. You're calculating these project cash flows in foreign currency as we have discussed in earlier chapters. Simple as that. Number two, step two, convert the foreign currency net cash flows, foreign currency net cash flows to domestic currency using forecast exchange rates. You know, forecast exchange rates, if these are not given, let me have NB. If these exchange rates are not given, exchange rates are not given, comma, parity or interest rate parity. Interest rate parity just above. Oh, there you go. If you are not given the exchange rates, you can forecast them using purchasing power parity or interest rate parity, as we have just discussed above. Step number three, discount domestic currency net cash flows, the domestic currency net cash flows, discount the domestic currency net cash flows using appropriate cost of capital, appropriate risk adjusted cost of capital, NPV, to get NPV in domestic currency. Is that you then discount to get NPV in domestic currency. These are the basic steps. You just do it like this and you get NPV in domestic currency. You know what? Care should be taken. Suppose the examiner says, let's say the examiner says calculate NPV for the project. The examiner says calculate NPV for the project in foreign currency. If the examiner says he or she wants the NPV in foreign currency, in that case, there's no need to convert cash flows to domestic currency. So step number 2 is not necessary, because step number 2 is to convert cash flows in domestic currency, and the examiner wants the NPV in foreign currency. It's rare for the examiner to ask for NPV in foreign currency. In most instances, the examiner normally asks NPV in domestic currency, which makes the step number 2 of converting foreign currency net cash flows to domestic currency, which makes that particular step kind of compulsory. All right, and then so there you go. Right, so foreign project cash flow determination. Foreign project cash flow determination. Project cash flow or determination. Here is how you determine foreign project cash flows. If you want to get to determine foreign project cash flows, it's so easy. Let us say the project is a 3-year, is a 4-year life. You know, there's a great deal of you being neat here. Let's say 0, 1, 2, 3. Let's say the project just has 3 years. So what you do according to step number 1, you first calculate project cash flows in foreign currency. So foreign currency, let us say FX to denote foreign currency. FX, this is what you do first. Your cash flows should be in foreign currency. If you don't mind, allow me to put my figures at the middle like this, and then so it is like this. Let me bold it. So it's like how we calculate project cash flows. Remember, you say incremental sales. You start your sales in year 1 value. Okay. This is in foreign currency. Costs, let's say variable costs. If you are given, let's say you're given variable costs. So these are variable costs. You can write them like that, and then they might be, you know, fixed fixed costs. Remember, these for fixed costs to come here, they should be incremental, meaning fixed costs associated with the project, not fixed costs that we were incurring whether we have this project or not. No, always ensure that fixed costs that we get are incremental fixed costs. All right, so there you go. And then you say you might be paying royalties comma, management. You can pay royalties, management fees, etc. to the head office. They are a cost to the project because the project is paying these in foreign currency like this. You know, suppose you are getting component transfers from head office, component transfer. You are getting component transfers from HQ. They are equally a cost in foreign currency. They are a cost in foreign currency like this. And then etc. We may not complete this. We let us just give generic costs. So what you get there becomes, this becomes pre-tax cash flows, pre-tax cash flows, cash flows. So there you go. And then you say foreign tax at let's say Y%. You'll be given the foreign tax. If it's paid 1 year in arrear, you still remember what we do. If we pay 1 year in arrear, we add another year. We are assuming that this tax is paid in that particular year. Actually, let me do it slightly different. Allow me to insert a line here, and allow me to do it this way. Sorry for that, guys. Allow me to say, let me say tax allowable depreciation. Tax allowable depreciation. Let me allowable depreciation like this. Remember, tax allowable depreciation is capital allowances. That's what we mean by tax allowable depreciation. Let me put it there. So this, let me now call it taxable. Taxable income instead. And then you proceed to say foreign tax at, then you say add back tax allowable depreciation. You know, why was tax allowable depreciation deducted? We deducted it because we needed to calculate tax, but remember it's a non-cash item. After calculating tax, we then add it back. Acknowledging that we had deducted it, yet it was a non-cash item. Remember, we are determining cash flows. And then you say, after doing this, you say incremental working capital. Before, normally working capital starts in year 0. You remember that? But going forward, you can increase it or decrease it. You know, working capital can increase, it's a cash outflow. If it decreases, it's a cash inflow. But normally in the final year, it is recovered. So in the final year, it's a positive. And then initial outlay. Outlay. It's in year 0. If there's a residual value, you still remember residual value goes to the last year of the project. So once you have done this, you get what is called net cash flows. You get net cash flows. These are the net cash flows I'm referring to by saying net cash flows in foreign currency. These are net cash flows in Forex. These are net cash flows in Forex. So you get that. Your net cash flows in Forex. I then said you say exchange rate. Now exchange rate, if it's not given, you calculate using PPP or interest rate parity. So the exchange rate, you have it like W or let's say RSTU. These are the exchange rates. If they are not given, the exchange rates are calculated using PPP. And then suppose your currency is the dollar. So you now have your currency in the dollar. You now have your currency in dollars. You get that? You are now at conversion stage. You are now at conversion stage. Actually, let me put it in black. We are now at conversion stage. So what then do? You then have net cash flows. Net cash flows in dollars, because we are saying your currency is the dollar. So what you are simply doing is you are converting the same net cash flows you have calculated above are the same net cash flows you are converting. So these were my net cash flows here in foreign currency. I'm now converting them. If it was negative, it will still remain negative. So it will be like, if it's negative in foreign currency, it's still negative in domestic currency. It doesn't change because it has been converted. Most students, they ignore this fact. If you are converting initial outlay negative, it should remain negative here. If it was positive, it will come out positive. Now there are certain items now which require adjustments. Issues like opportunity cost. If the project causes you to lose some revenue, the after-tax contribution is called opportunity. The after-tax contribution which is lost is called opportunity cost. So opportunity cost, it's a cash outflow to the project. And then royalties. You know, if the royalties was paying you royalties and management fees, notice, if the project was paying you royalties and management fees, it was a cost. Let's say the project is in Botswana and your head office is here in Zimbabwe. If the project is paying you royalties and management fees, it's a cost in Botswana. But where is this going? It is coming to you, to head office. So here it's income to you. But it's now in dollars. Remember, make sure it's no longer the same figure here. The figure you put here is now in dollars. And then contribution of component transfers. Contributions on component transfers. Transfers from HQ. Imagine you are at head office and you are transferring components to the project. Like you are transferring raw materials to the project. They are a cost to the project, but where is the money going? The money is coming to you here at head office. So you are actually selling these to the foreign project. So to you here, it's an income. No wonder. Then if you are transferring components to the project or you are receiving royalties from projects, let me repeat, our project is in Botswana. Our project is in Botswana, and what we are doing is we are transferring components to Botswana project, and the Botswana project is paying us for that transfer. So effectively speaking, we are selling components to Botswana project. That's what we are doing. So as far as the project there is concerned, it's a cost. But to us here, it's not a cost, it's income, because we are the ones receiving money, unless we were not the head office transferring them. So we first deduct them as a cost when we want to calculate tax in Botswana. But where was the money going for management fees, for royalties and stuff? It was coming to Zim, and the Zim government will tax us on that. So the Zim government will tax us on that. So there's contributions. So Zim government will then tax us. So we then have to say tax on royalties, management fees, and components. You say domestic. It's now Zim government, which is, so we say domestic on royalties, management fees, and component transfers, I shall comment further with an NB on these points that I'm putting here. So you then have to put the domestic tax on this. There's a domestic tax on that, so you can now drag. Right, so there you go. ETC. So what you then have to do is, after you've done this part, you now have net cash flows in domestic. This is still net cash flows in dollars. They are now revised, and then in the like manner, so that you drag like this, and then you discount them. What you then do is, after you've obtained your cash flow, you then say NPV as before. Calculate your NPV as before. All right. Now there are some points that I want us to note, which really play a role in project cash flow determination. This template, you must commit it to memory. It's so important. All right. So NB, points to note. Points to note. Points to note. Okay, sorry for that. I wanted to say point. All right. Number one. If there are restrictions on remittances of foreign project cash flows or foreign project cash flows to the home country or to the HQ, then project cash flows will be evaluated to the extent to which we then evaluate project cash flows to the extent to which they are remittable. We evaluate project cash flows to the extent to which they are remittable. I want to show you what I mean by that. I want to show you what I mean by that. You know, here, notice, when we get foreign project cash flows in foreign currency, like this line here, when we got them in foreign currency, we converted everything to domestic currency, because the assumption is everything we get in foreign currency is remitted to HQ. But what if you are investing in a country like Zimbabwe, where there is 51, 49%, where you don't get everything that you have generated, you leave some. Under the circumstances, you only convert cash flows which are remittable. You don't convert everything. So you say net cash flows in foreign currency. You say net cash flows in Forex, like this. Net cash flows in Forex. So you have it like this. And then you then say W, X, Y, Z. These are your net cash flows in Forex. So you get to this stage, and then you say remittable cash flows. Remittable cash flows. The examiner will tell you the fraction which is remittable. Let's say e.g. 80%. If the examiner says only 80% of the cash flows are remittable, then it means you only discount, you convert only 80%, 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. But notice, in year 0, it is negative. Remember, we are looking for cash flows which are remittable, So you don't remit any out, you The cash flows which are remittable are those which are earned in from year 1 onwards. So year 0 was an outflow, so you don't expect a remittance on an outflow. You are investing in Botswana. What you invest in year 0 is an outflow, so you don't say I'm not getting my remittance when we were investing. So 80% starts from year 1, so you say 0.8x, 0.88y, and then 0.8z. These are your remittable cash flows. And then after getting your remittable cash flows, you then say exchange rate. Exchange rate. And then you put the, here it still remains negative W, because in year 0 there's no need of, because it was an outflow. So you still put exchange rates here, the same exchange rates that you have put there, which is which are these ones. And then you proceed like before. After putting these exchange rates, you then proceed to get net cash flows in. You then, after putting exchange rates, you then proceed like what we have done. You put your line now, and then say you put dollars now. Are you getting it? You then put dollars as before, and then you then say net cash flows in dollars. You only convert to the extent to which cash flows are remittable. These ones are the ones you are now converting, the 0.8, the 80% of the cash flows, not the full cash flows. This is not number 1. Not number 2. If the head office, if HQ charges royalties, comma, management fees, comma, or transfers components to the foreign project, or transfers components to the foreign project. Okay, let me see. Is there a comment or something? What happens to the 20%? Okay, that's a good question. The 20% is a cash flow which we don't retain, which is not remittable to us as a head office, so we don't consider it for investment appraisal. Though we know that this cash flow is still retained in that company, in that project, and is still financing our operations, but only that the government there doesn't allow it to be repatriated. We know the practical issues that it is still being used by our company, our project there, but for the purpose of appraising the project, we don't consider it. Right? Okay, so if the head office charges royalties, management fees, or transfers components to the foreign project, then such are costs to the project foreign currency, are costs to the project in foreign currency. Currency, you know, there are a cost to the project in foreign currency. You noticed that above. However, they are then added to domestic currency cash flows. They are then added to domestic currency cash flows, net of domestic tax, net of domestic tax. They are then added to domestic currency net of domestic tax, since the office was receiving the money. The HQ received. HQ was the one who is receiving the money. So it was a cost to the project, but where did the money go? It came here to the HQ. So we need to, the Zim government will consider that as income. So it will actually tax us on that. So you have that. On component transfers, if you are transferring components, only the after-tax contribution is added to domestic tax. I mean to domestic currency. Well, if you are transferring components, Zim government will actually consider it to be a sale. So it will tax you. So the cash flow to you is the after-tax contribution that you have made. Then continuing. Number 3. If as a result of foreign project, loses on export sales or on export sales, then the after-tax contribution on lost export sales is an opportunity cost. The after-tax contribution on lost sales is an opportunity cost project. What am I saying to the project in domestic currency? Yes. If you were selling goods to Botswana, you were selling shoes to Botswana, for example, and then you decide to set up a shoe manufacturing plant there. You were selling shoes there, and then you decide to set up a shoe manufacturing plant there. Clearly, you then lose on what you were selling there. So that becomes an opportunity cost. But what you consider is the after-tax lost contribution. It's an opportunity cost in dollars. So after sorting out your cash flows in Pula, and then you are at this stage where you have converted them to dollars, you need to take out opportunity cost here. After you've converted them to dollars, remember to take out opportunity cost. All right. Another issue is foreign projects are subject to the following assumptions. Foreign projects are subject to the following assumptions. You know, when you are evaluating a foreign project, it's subject to quite a lot of assumptions because it's now in foreign currency. So you would notice in your exam, we ask you to give us assumptions. Now, foreign projects are subject to the following assumptions. Let us have them one by one. A, the ruling government will remain in place over the duration of the project. The ruling government will remain in place over the duration of the project. You get that? So, very important assumption. If you do project in South Africa, you're expecting that the ruling government will remain in place over the duration of the project to give that certainty to your cash flows. You get that? Another point is number 2, inflation rates. Inflation rates, comma, exchange rates, comma, interest rates, interest rates, comma, cash flow forecasts, are assumed to be accurate. You know, how do you, as a manager, how do you validate, you know, the validity of this assumption? The validity of this assumption can be determined by carrying out sensitivity analysis of cash flows, sensitivity analysis, or simulation of project cash flows. You can undertake sensitivity analysis, or you can simulate these project cash flows to understand that you have the point there. Another point is the discount rate used. The discount rate used reflects the risks associated with foreign project cash flows. Foreign project cash flows. This is an assumption. If not, comma, it's prudent to use project-specific cost of capital. Project-specific cost of capital. If not, that's what we encourage you to do. It's prudent that you use the project-specific cost of capital. You still remember how to calculate project-specific cost. Number D is the project can commence immediately, and last for a given period of time, no options, with no options to delay, expand, comma, abandon the project prior to its completion. We assume that there are no real options embedded in the project. If these options are available, they are valued in domestic currency, They are valued in domestic currency using Black's pricing, which is the Bismarck, and the value adjusts the NPV estimate. Value adjusts the NPV. The value then adjusts the NPV estimate. It's so important. These are the assumptions. If we ask you to say, Discuss the assumptions you have made. These are the assumptions that we'll be talking about. D, E, all cash flows from the project are assumed to be remittable. All cash flows from the project are assumed to be remittable. Comma, they are evaluated to the extent to which they are remittable. They are evaluated extent to which they are remittable. So that one is so important. If the government then says you can't remit all cash flows, make sure you evaluate them to the extent to which they are remittable. Then it's another assumption. You know, these are assumptions. These are assumptions. The other assumption is the agreements. The agreements entered between and the host government are assumed to be honored or you know, if you enter into an agreement with a foreign government, the assumption is whatever you agreed, you have to honor it. Whatever you have agreed, you have to honor it. So if you have agreed on double taxation agreements, you make sure you have to honor those. If you have agreed if you have set the transfer price of components and you've agreed with the foreign government, you have to honor those. So these are the pertinent assumptions which underlie foreign project investment appraisal. Remember, what we are discussing here is points to note. These are points to note. So it was point 1, point 2, point 3. We were now on point 4. Now point 5. 5 contains, you know, double taxation agreements or bilateral tax treaties. There might be a bilateral tax treaty, Bilateral tax treaty. Some put it as double taxation agreements. Double taxation agreements. Double taxation agreements. Allowing foreign taxes charged to be offset or credited to domestic taxes payable, or credited to offset, let's say, against domestic taxes payable. Domestic taxes payable to be offset against domestic taxes payable. You know what? This one, let me explain it. There is what is called a double taxation agreement. You know, this is how a double taxation agreement works. If you want to have a project in Botswana, and Botswana government and the same government have a double taxation agreement, what it means is if I receive income from Botswana and it was taxed at, say, 20%, and Zim government is charging me 30%, I don't pay 30% here, having paid 20% in Botswana. Double tax, a bilateral tax treaty now allows me to offset the Botswana tax component from the Zim tax component, then I pay the extra. But if the Botswana tax component was more, suppose Botswana tax rate is 25%, Zim government is 20%. I don't pay anything in Zim government on income which was taxed in Botswana. I don't pay anything in Zim government on income which was taxed in Botswana, because Zim tax is lower than the Botswana tax. So I offset Botswana tax against what I was going to pay. So does it mean Zim tax will give me a refund? No. If in Botswana you pay the 30% and Zim tax is 20%, it does not mean Zim government will give you a refund because you didn't pay the tax to Zim government. You paid it to Botswana. All the Zim government can do is they can ask you to, they can let you take advantage of the provision, double taxation relief, and not pay Zim tax. But I want you to get something on that, on these three, what I can call scenarios. These are the scenarios. These are the scenarios intended. Let's say here there's case one. Case one. On case one, and here there's case two. Case two, and here there's case three. Case three. Notice these particular cases where in situations where there's double taxation agreements. Let's say here is domestic tax, and here is foreign tax, foreign tax, and notice in our case one, domestic tax is 20%, foreign tax is 20%. Domestic tax is 40%, foreign tax is 30%. In case 3, domestic tax is in case 3. Do I need to put case 3 where domestic tax is lower? No, actually they are. I'm sure they are domestic tax. Yeah, I'm sure these two cases are enough. The two cases are enough. Oh, sorry for that. The first two cases are enough. Now, the question is, do I have to pay additional domestic tax? This is the question in these scenarios. Additional domestic tax. Do I have to pay additional domestic tax? If I ask myself this question, do I, under case 1, no. No, I'm no longer going to pay additional domestic tax if there is a bilateral tax treaty. If there is a bilateral tax treaty. Under case 1, I'm not. Under case 2, yes. Yes, I have to pay additional domestic tax. Yes. Now, this is so important. You understand under case 2, it's yes. But it is what? This additional domestic tax, it is what amount? What amount is the amount of what amount is the additional domestic tax? Under case 2, additional domestic tax, because foreign tax is 30% and Zim tax is 40%, additional domestic tax is 10% of foreign, of foreign taxable income, of foreign taxable income, then converted to domestic currency. Important. Let me bold it and italicize it just to make it super important. Here's the deal. Students, they know that if foreign tax is less than domestic tax, it means here in Zim you have to pay additional tax. But the question which students, it's 10% of what cash flow? It is 10% of the cash flow where 30% was paid. Get that right? It is additional 10% of the cash flow where the 30% was paid. So if you come to this cash flow analysis, foreign tax is paid at this leg here. This is where foreign tax is paid. So when you have to pay additional tax is no longer paid to the foreign government. So it comes here. Additional tax will then come here. Here. So we can insert a line now, because you now understand the issue of additional tax. Additional tax is paid here. So you say any additional tax on foreign taxable income. Foreign taxable income. I'm saying any because it only arises if domestic tax exceeds additional tax. It only arises if domestic tax exceeds foreign tax. Now, imagine, in our case, we say it is 10%. So if you come here and say 10% of this figure, the answer you get is in foreign currency, because these are foreign currency cash flows. So by saying 10% of this figure is foreign currency, so you don't come and put foreign currency at this line. So what you then have to do is to convert them to domestic currency. You calculate 10% of those cash flows, convert them to domestic currency with these exchange rates. So you have the cash flows already. So it is a matter of coming to your calculator and say 10% of this figure, convert with this rate and put the answer here. 10% of that figure, the next figure, convert with this rate and put your answer here. This is what I mean by saying converted to domestic currency. I'm sure you now understand. So basically, there are quite a lot of other things we can talk about concerning foreign project appraisal. But those which warrant us to have the notes are the ones we have. Are you not seeing something that, as you say, I talk quite a lot? Imagine I've been talking, and imagine I'm not even getting tired. I actually, when I'm teaching, it's like medicine to me. That's kind of medicine. I relax, I teach in a relaxed mode, and I want you to understand this in a relaxed mode. On what I have said, I don't think I have said anything which can really trouble you. Now let me, because I'm teaching you as managers, what I have taught you now is called financial case of foreign project appraisal. You now understand the whole thing, what this is. You now appreciate it. Now let us talk about the strategic case of foreign project appraisal, because we do make decisions from a financial perspective and also from a strategic perspective. What do we mean by strategic perspective? As managers, we want to maximize shareholder wealth. You know that. We do have a fiduciary duty. So one way of discharging that is to ensure that investors' funds are put to good use, and by scanning around in foreign markets to get projects. There are other non-financial benefits you draw from undertaking projects in foreign currency. Number one, it leads to product life extension. Certain products may be at decline stage here in America. Oh, the beauty of learning online, as you say, I can tell you that I'm in America. Certain projects may be at decline stage here, but they are still needed there in Africa. So what can you do? You can equally extend product's life by opening new markets. It's a strategic benefit. You don't need to rely on NPV only. Look at all this. Another thing is, when you partner with a foreign government and undertake this project, like you want to manufacture electricity, you want to construct the roads and stuff, and if you do it well to the current government, you stand a chance to win what we call follow-on projects. Meaning you can win tenders. You can now have options to expand. Option to, yes, these are follow-on projects. So the initial project may have a negative NPV, but if you have an option to follow on, you value the option with BSMOP, you can actually end up having a positive NPV, as we have discussed in the previous lesson. Another is going there brings you closer to raw materials in some instances. If you wondered why American firms, they have their manufacturing plants in China, they have manufacturing plants in China for the purpose of being close to cheap labor, close to raw materials, close to the market. You know, you are close to the market. Those who need it might be there. We can't have a situation where you're busy manufacturing stuff in Zim and you are selling in Norway. In another strategic direction might be to relocate your manufacturing facilities to Norway. And in this case, it's now a foreign project and it needs to be appraised as such. So you have that. Another strategic, you know, there are also ethical issues when you are, there are ethical implications when you're investing in a foreign project. Ethically, you have to consider something. If you are known to be a firm in good reputation, you don't exploit labor, you don't do anything, the culture and operating policies in a country you're operating should not cast an irreparable dent to your ethical stance. Otherwise, the reputation you have built over the years will be flushed in the drain. So you have all this. There are issues to do with ethics, supply chain risks. There's a lot of other things which we have to look at. You get that? Most businesses consider foreign projects to be tax havens. There's what is called tax haven. Have you ever heard of that? A Cuthbert, have you ever heard of a tax haven? You can unmute and talk to yourself.
No, sir.
Tax havens are foreign investment vehicles which charge a lower rate of tax. So what happens is, if you want to evade tax, let's say Zimbabwean tax rate is 30%, you can go to a country with a lower tax rate, let's say Republic of Ireland, and set up your head office there. And in so doing, you benefit from, you set up your head office there and then transfer components from there to other countries where they have high tax rates. The beauty is, as you are transferring them, they are considered as sales in a tax haven with lower tax rates. And then wherever they are going, they are considered as costs. So there are deductions. In a tax haven, they are incomes, but at a lower tax rate. You may say, is it ethical to have a tax haven? What about the ruling government? What did it say? You are laundering money. You are undertaking a money laundering scheme. It's perfectly legal to have a tax haven, but governments may complain. Governments may actually complain. You may have your neck on line with a ruling government, but it's legal. It's legal. Though it might not be ethical, you know, something might be legal but not ethical. You have to balance the two. You have to weigh where the weight is. You get that? So there's Isle of Man, there is Panama, you know, the Panama Papers. Those were the scandal in the recent past, where billionaires were stashing their monies there in a tax haven. All that was being done to evade paying taxes. That's how the mechanics of tax haven, you know, operate. Do you understand it now, Cuthbert? Tax haven?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay, so let us now do a question paper. Remember, I said today be prepared for us to finish around 9. I said actually 9:15. So without taking much of your time, how many hours are there through to 9:15? So that it's 1 hour 30 minutes, yes, because we want to do a 50-mark question, which will take the tally to the 1 hour 50-mark tab. I'm sending the question in our Skype chat. Oh, Van, concerning the question you have asked, were you answered, Van? If you can unmute and talk to yourself. Van, are you hearing yourself? You know, Van doesn't want to talk to yourself. Well, it's still fine. Okay, so I have sent the question. You can open the question. June 2015 question number 1. This same question is in our revision kits, so you can still open its Imoni company or Ilandwe company. I don't know the notation there. You can still access it from there. Allow me to open it on my screen so that you can as well access it from my screen here. You can access it from my screen here. Let me check whether my relatives are still there. Who is Tino? Are you still there? All right. Who else? Mercy. Confirm your presence. Okay.
Yes, I'm still present. Though I'm having challenges with my network.
Ah, okay. Okay, it does happen. Don't worry. The lecture is being recorded. So as soon as we are done, you receive a perfect copy of the lecture without any flaws. So that will be fine. Okay, so let me now read the question. We want to answer this question. Okay, allow me to make my workspace lean by deleting unnecessary stuff. You know, if you want to make your workspace lean, that's how we make it lean. All right. Okay. So before I come to, before I come to the question, I need to comment on something. After today's lecture, I'm going to send you. We do it the way we just did it last week. At the end of every lecture, I sent you a video. So our next topic, if you go on the program of study, our next topic is on mergers and acquisitions. So what I'm going to do after this lecture, I'm going to send my video on mergers and acquisitions. I have explained it the same way I'm doing it, explaining in a detailed way and with plenty of past exam papers. So there are 2 videos on mergers and acquisitions. There's a video on theoretical information on mergers and acquisitions. And there's a video with 7 past papers that we revised on mergers and acquisitions. And in total, the videos on mergers and acquisitions alone, they are about 7 hours. 7 hours. So when you play them, I will send this video again. So you play the first theoretical content. I will remark it first, and then illustrate the video with illustrative questions on mergers and acquisitions, and it will be done. So you may ask, what then will be left? Derivatives, and our syllabus is up. This is something you should cherish, that we now have the whole month of August doing revision. Everyone in this class is going to pass AFM. You can't have whole month with doing revision with Mr. Mpasi and fail. I'm here to see that. So what I want is, make sure you register for AFM. The due date for your standard entry is 2nd of August 2021. Diarize that, and this is the only favor you can do to yourself. This is the only favor you can do to yourself. You have done your part of choosing yourself, and I'm laying it bare to you that everything is within our reach. You get that? So this week is equally packed. Today, in appraising foreign projects, it's done. The topic is already done. Then Friday and Saturday, you'll be playing, play the video on mergers and acquisitions, theoretical content. And on Sunday, dedicate the entire Sunday for the 4-hour video on illustrations on mergers and acquisitions. So that you know the topic is done. Come next week, derivatives. And then we have this whole month of July to wrap it up. And then August, there are now assignments. And it will be assignments after assignments, assignments, revision after revision, revision after revision, till you finish. And you shall notice there are plenty of videos even on revisions on our, be it on Facebook or YouTube, whichever platform you are using. You see a lot of videos on revisions. So when I'm saying we are now left with one topic, which is derivatives, after you've played the 2 videos on mergers and acquisitions, using financial derivatives to hedge currency and interest rate risk, that is what is left. You can now even right away begin to open your revision kits from question number 1 and start doing revision. It's now a matter of getting things started. Okay. Because of time, allow me to read the paper myself. If I may zoom it for your clarity and legibility. Don't know what we call it. Okay, Yilandwe Company is saying Yilandwe, whose currency is Yilandwe Rand, has faced extremely difficult economic conditions in the past 25 years because of some questionable economic policies and political decisions made by its previous governments. Although Yilandwe's population is generally poor, its people are nevertheless well educated and ambitious. You know, it's like Zimbabwe, where we are well educated and we are ambitious. If you ask me this describes me. Just over 3 years ago, a new government took office, and since then it has imposed a number of strict monetary and fiscal controls, including an annual corporate tax of 40%. So, what is corporate tax in Yilandwe? It's 40%. This is your foreign tax. In an attempt to bring Yilandwe out of its difficulties. As a result, the annual rate of inflation has fallen rapidly from a high of 65% to its current level of 33%. These strict monetary and fiscal controls have made the Yilandwe government popular in the larger cities and towns, but less popular in rural areas, which seem to have suffered disproportionately from the strict monetary and fiscal controls. It is expected that Yilandwe's annual inflation rate will continue to fall in the coming few years as follows. So there you go. So these are now forecast inflation rate. First year 22%, second year is 14.7%, and year 3 onwards it's 9.8%. Now, Yilandwe government has decided to continue the progress made so far by encouraging foreign direct investment into the country. Recently, government representatives held trade shows internationally and offered business a number of concessions, including 0% corporate tax rate for the first 2 years. So if you are carrying out a project in Yilandwe, you are not going to pay tax for the first 2 years because it's 0%. This is being done to attract investors. An opportunity to carry forward tax losses and write them against future profits made in the first 2 years. So what does that mean? It means, this statement means if you make a loss in year 1, that loss is going to reduce profits that will be made in year 3 onwards, because there is an opportunity to carry forward tax losses and write them off against the profits made after the first 3 years. English, right? That's English there. Then government representatives also promised the international companies investing in Yilandwe in prime locations in towns and cities with good transport links. Right, Imoni company. So this is about Yilandwe, where we want to go and invest. It's a foreign country. We now know that its tax rate is 20%, it's 40%, and it has promised us that we pay 0% tax in the first 2 years, and thereafter we we are given all these opportunity to carry forward the tax losses and write them off. Then, Imoni company is a large listed company based in the USA with dollar as its currency. Remember, Ilandwe Rand is the currency of Ilandwe. And us as a company who want to invest, our currency is the dollar. So the dollar is the domestic currency. It manufactures high-tech diagnostic components for machinery, which it exports worldwide. After attending one of the trade shows, Imoni company is considering setting up an assembly plant in Ilandwe, where parts would be sent and assembled. Where parts will be sent. So Imoni will be transferring parts from HQ, where parts will be sent and assembled into a specific type of a component, which is currently being assembled in the USA. Once assembled, the component will be exported directly to Europe and it will be invoiced in euro. So we are manufacturing components in Ilandwe, whose currency is Ilandwe Rand, and then we want to export them to Europe and they are invoiced in euro. Then assembly plant in Ilandwe, financial and other data projections. It is initially assumed that the project will last for 4 years. The project is the 4-year project will require. Now, when they say it is initially assumed, that's an assumption. The project will last for 4 years. The 4-year project will require investments of 21,000 million for land and buildings, 18,000 million. This is like 18 billion, so to speak. 18,000 million for machinery and 9,600 million for working capital to be made immediately. The working capital will need to be increased annually at the start of each of the next 3 years by Ilandwe's inflation rate. And it is assumed that this will be released at the end of the project's life. It can be assumed that the assembly plant can be built very quickly, it's an assumption, and production started almost immediately. This is because the basic facilities in the manufacture are already in place, as the plant will be built on premises and grounds of a school. The school is ideally located near the main highway and railway lines. As a result, the school will close and the children currently studying there will be relocated to other schools in the city. The government has kindly agreed to provide free buses to take the children to these schools for a period of 6 months to give parents time to arrange appropriate transport in future for the children. So this paragraph is telling us that they are going to use a school if they get to Ilandwe, and government will relocate children to nearby schools and offer transport for 6 months. After 6 months, parents are said to have obtained appropriate transport for their children. The selling price for each component is 700, and this price is likely to increase by EU inflation rate from year 1 onwards. So by EU inflation rate, the number of components expected to be sold every year are as follows. So these are sales. The parts needed to assemble into components in Ilandwe will be sent from USA by Imoni at a cost of 200 per component, from which Imoni currently earns a pre-tax contribution of 40 for each component. However, Imoni feels that it can negotiate with the Ilandwe government to increase the transfer price of components to 280. So, in other words, for our project appraisal purposes, we are going to use. So what it means is we are going to use a component price. We are going to use a component price of. We are going to use component price of 280. That's what it means. So we are going to use component price of 280. Allow me to just add it on the go. We are going to use a component price of 280. Component price of. So we are going to use component price of 280. That's what they are saying when component price is 200, like here, they are saying at a price of 200, contribution, they are making contribution of 40. So if we increase the price to 280, meaning we increase the price by 80, it means at contribution and pre-tax contribution, will be, currently we have 40 plus 80 that we have after. So pre-tax contribution will be 120. Simple as that. Because we are saying Imoni feels it can do this. So for investment appraisal, we are going to work with what they are planning to do. Then here, they are saying assembling the components in Ilandwe, the variable costs related to assembling the components in Ilandwe are 1596 Ilandwe rand per component. Okay, is that a question? Oh, okay. If you can't hear me, what you do is you mute, you exit and join again. Perhaps it's an element of network. Are you hearing me now, Cuthbert?
I can hear you.
Okay, cool. So the question was, the statement was, the variable costs related to the assembling of components in Ilandwe are 15,960 per component. The current annual fixed costs of assembly are 4,600 million. All these costs, wherever incurred, they will increase by that country's annual inflation from year one onwards. So, in other words, when we say contribution will be this, they are saying this to be inflated. We have to inflate this with US rate. So they are saying all these costs wherever they are incurred. So components are coming from US, they will be inflated with the US rate. Assembly is being done in Ilandwe, so assembly costs will be inflated with Ilandwe inflation rate. Fixed costs are in Ilandwe, so they will be inflated with Ilandwe inflation rate. Imoni pays corporate tax of 20%. So notice, Ilandwe tax is 40%. Imoni tax is 20%. So foreign tax is higher than domestic tax, so there is no additional tax. The tax in both USA and Ilandwe are paid in the year in which the liability arises. A bilateral tax treaty exists between Ilandwe and USA. Bilateral tax treaty means double taxation agreement, which allows foreign taxes to be offset against tax. So foreign tax is 40%, it is offset against 20%. So locally, you don't pay additional tax on foreign taxable income. Then, tax allowable depreciation is available at 25% on machinery on a straight line basis. Remember, it's available on 25% on machinery on a straight line basis. So all you have to do is to come to which figure here is machinery. Machinery, they're saying machinery requires 18,000 million for machinery. So tax allowable depreciation is on machinery. So what I'm going to do here is just to say 25%, 25% times 18,000, which is equals to 4,500, which is 4,500. You get that? That's tax allowable depreciation. Tax allowable depreciation. Let me bring the figures close. Let me bring the figures close. All right. So it's 4,500. 4,500. I just want to, because I don't want to spend much time when I'm working. Once we start calculating, all the figures will be there. So tax allowable depreciation is 4,500. So there you go. Imoni will expect annual royalties. So there are royalties again. Imoni will expect annual royalties from assembly plant in Ilandwe. So the normal annual royalty fee is currently 20 million. But Imoni feels that it can negotiate this with Ilandwe government and increase the royalty by 80%. Once agreed, this will not be subject to any inflationary pressures. So again, what it means is the royalties for the purpose of investment appraisal, royalties are they are currently 20 million. So they want to be increased by 80%. So it 20 million times 1,8, which is equals to 36 million. 36 million and not inflated. These are not going to be inflated. So there you go. Those are your royalties. And then next, if Imoni does decide to invest in assembly plant in Ilandwe, its exports from US to EU will fall and will incur redundant costs. As a result, Imoni's after-tax cash flows will reduce by the following amounts. So this is basically opportunity cost, because we are going to undertake a project in Ilandwe. So our current cash flows will reduce by these. So these are opportunity costs. These are opportunity costs because we are no longer going to get these monies as a result of this particular project. And then Imoni normally uses cost of capital of 9% to assess new projects. However, the finance director suggests that Imoni should use a project-specific cost of capital of 12% instead. So you are going to use this project-specific cost of capital of 12% for the project appraisal. All right, continuing. Other information, so these are the exchange rates you are given. So here there's no need for you to use PPP or interest rate parity because the exchange rates are already given. So I can now remove the addition. So I have actually annotated where appropriate so that you can follow when we are calculating the figures. Right, so discuss the possible benefits and drawbacks to Imoni of setting up its own assembly plant in Ilandwe as compared to licensing a company based in Ilandwe to undertake the project on its behalf. So this one is not necessarily a question on AFM, it's a question on the strategic sense. We want to invest in a country which is called Ilandwe, but here's the deal. What are the benefits of setting up our own assembly plant in Ilandwe rather than licensing someone who is already there to do it on our behalf or in our name? Can you make use of the chat feature? Can you type in the chat? What are the benefits to Ilandwe of setting up our assembly plant there as compared to licensing a company that is there to do it under our name? Make use of the chat feature. I want to see you guys typing. I'm not seeing anyone typing, guys. I'm waiting. Right? The benefit of setting up assembly plant in Ilandwe as compared to licensing someone to do it on your behalf. What are the benefits? Right? I'm seeing one person typing. Where are others, guys? Let us work with your say. benefits of setting up your own assembly plant in a land rather than licensing someone to go there. Guys, only one person is typing. Where are others? Maslin, are you there, Maslin?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. Imagine you want to go to assembly to set up an assembly plant in Ilandwe. You have two choices. Either set up your own plant or license someone who is there to do it for you. What are the benefits? So, who is this? Who is this just written guest? Can you unmute and talk to yourself so that I can call you by name? Okay. So, the first statement is that the business could lose control of the business by licensing. Okay, so in other words, the question was saying what are the benefits? So the benefit is the business can maintain control. When you set up your own assembly plant in Ilandwe, you benefit by maintaining control. You get that? Mm-hmm. Let me actually discuss this in detail. These are called growth strategies. You can grow by fixed foreign direct investment, like in this case, you are going there and actually set up your physical production properties. So that one is beneficial because you have control over output. Even your ethical stance, you can export your ethical stance there because you are not licensing people who are there to do it for you. Another is so you have control over quality, you sustain your ethical stance. Again, another thing is Ilandwe government is giving tax concessions to foreigners. These tax concessions are not being given to locals. So if you go there and license to a company which is there, you don't benefit from tax concessions. So these examples are practical examples because they are based on information in the case that foreigners only are eligible for this. So if you go by licensing, the licensee doesn't benefit from this. Now the question was, what are the benefits and drawbacks? That was the question. So on the benefit side, you have got that right. We control our output, our quality. We don't lose our business secrets because we are doing it ourselves. And also we benefit from tax concessions, which are only available to foreigners. So if you go by licensing, we don't benefit from this. And now what are the drawbacks of setting our own plant there rather than giving? Because it was saying benefits and drawbacks. The drawbacks is like by setting our own plant there, it may take us time to acclimatize to the culture and operating policies of that particular country, you know that? Because you are setting up your own plant there. Another is, by setting up your own plant there are quite risks that we are going to face there. Like we are going to chase children out of their current school. Isn't it going to dent our ethical stance? Isn't it going to dent our ethical stance? If we set our own plant there, look at how the investment required, quite a lot of investment required, 21 million, 18 million, wait, a lot of other investments which will be required. So that one, are you not seeing answers which your say is giving? I'm not giving you theoretical answers. I am referring to the case. Your subjects, marks, you get marks by applying to the case. So important. Next, next question. Okay, let me share my screen again. Next question was, next question says, prepare a report which evaluates the financial acceptability of investing in assembly plant in Ilandwe. Just check on the number of marks. 21 marks. This is like calculating investment project appraisal, calculating NPV and stuff. And then the report also discusses assumptions made in producing cash flow estimates and other risks and issues which Imoni should consider before making a final decision. 17 marks. So you can see that you can answer even question B without question A. Can you imagine? Don't say AFM is figurative, it's numerical subjects. No, there are a lot of theory questions there. 5 marks in first part, 17, that's easy marks. That's 21 plus 3, that's 24. That's 22 plus 3, that's 25. You can pass this question without even calculating the NPV itself. Are you getting it? You can pass question 1 without working anything. So that's one thing you need to know to go for easy marks. So let me tell you how you can answer part B. I just want to show you how you answer part B. I know you know how to prepare reports from your earlier papers, but just as a point of emphasis, allow me again to take you through. You still remember how you prepare your report. You say report to the board of so it's like you say to board of Imoni, board of directors of Imoni, board of directors of Imoni. You still remember these guys? And then you say from you can say management accountant. Or financial management is within the group of management account. Advising management accountant. Then you can say date. You know this. I'm not going to date. You put exam date. Subject. Language. Subject. Assembly. And in Ilandwe, because that's what the whole thing is about. So you know, you can bold and underline. So you have to, you know, in introduction to the report, it's a matter of joining these questions with nice sentences, intelligent sentences, to say this report first evaluates the financial acceptability of investing in assembly plant in Ilandwe. I won't teach you how to write a report again. I will do it now, and that's final. This report first evaluates the financial acceptability of investing in assembly plant in Ilandwe. The second section discusses the assumptions made in determining cash flow forecasts, as well as risks and other issues which Imoni should consider. Before making a decision, a final. Then the report concludes. So So this notice, introduction is, nobody should get introduction wrong because it's a matter of joining these sentences. So that's what I've just done. Don't say you are good at introduction. No, I'm not good at it. I'm just joining the sentences, the requirements of intelligent sentences. And then you say one, financial acceptability, financial acceptability of the investment in assembly plant. And so you now assess the financial acceptability of the investment in assembly plant. So how do you go about it? You just say here, financial acceptability of the investment in assembly plant. Right. Actually, it should be underlined. I want to underline. So you underline like this, and you say computations in Appendix 1. Computations in Appendix 1 indicates that the project is you are yet to work out, so you don't know whether it is acceptable or it is not. So just leave a space for not acceptable, because you don't know whether it is not. So just leave a space there. That's how you do it. You don't start by working acceptable as evidenced by a we don't know whether it's a negative or positive NPV of, you don't know the amount because you are yet to work it out. So already on part number 1, which is worth 21 marks, all that is required is now the appendix. So you can leave it like that, and then discuss assumptions made in predicting estimates and other risks. So that's number 2. Are you not seeing how you go about it? All this is done in the word processor. You don't write a report on Excel. I'm just putting it here for expedience purposes. Assumptions made, risks and other issues to be considered. Risks and other issues to be considered. So on assumptions made, risks and other issues to be considered. Remember, I told you the main assumptions that we make use of when we are evaluating foreign projects. I said foreign projects are subject to common assumptions, and these are the assumptions. So if I may just copy them here, copy and paste. Remember, this section is worth 17 marks. Is worth 17 marks. So on this particular section, it's a matter of now applying these assumptions. You know, these are like general assumptions before we apply them. So, like the first assumption is saying the ruling government will remain in place over the duration of the project. If you just write it like this, you just stated the assumption, you have not discussed it. The question says discuss assumptions made, not state. So how do you discuss an assumption? You then apply this assumption to the case to say Ilandwe government, the current Ilandwe government is the one which is actually promising what? Investors all these tax concessions and stuff. And for the tax concessions to be sustainable, the ruling government must remain in place over the duration of the project. Should a new government arises, these agreements may be changed. That's how you discuss that assumption. Then inflation rates, exchange rates, interest rates, and cash flow forecasts are assumed to be accurate. Then I say the validity of this assumption. So you can say Directors can validate this assumption. You don't say the validity. Directors can validate this assumption by carrying out sensitivity analysis or simulation of project cash flows. Full stop. Now, the discount rate used reflects the risks associated with foreign project cash flows. If not, it is prudent to use project-specific cost of capital. So what you do, you first write it like this and come to the question. The question is just telling us that they normally use cost of capital of 9%, but finance director suggests that the project-specific discount rate should be 12%. But there's no basis given here. Where was the 12% obtained? How was it obtained? So we don't know if the 12% captures all the risks associated with the project because there's no basis for its determination. You are now discussing the assumption. You state and you discuss. It is assumed that the project can commence immediately and last for a given period with no option to delay, to abandon, or to dispose the project prior to its completion. Then we say, if these options are available, so when you're writing this, you say, directors must check if indeed these options are not available. If they are, they must be valued in domestic currency using the Black-Scholes option pricing model, and the value of the option will adjust the NPV estimate. You move on. All cash flows are assumed to be remittable. If not, they must be evaluated to the extent to which they are remittable. So this you can copy it as it is. All agreements entered between HQ and host government must be honored, are assumed to be honored. So if you write this assumption, you then have to go to which agreements are given in this scenario. So these are the agreements. The first agreement is that royalties are going to be increased to 36 million. Imoni is saying it feels it can negotiate with the Ilandwe government. So what you have to do is to come to the case to pick it out. Don't just write an assumption without relating to the case. To say, we assume that Imoni will be in a good bargaining position to negotiate increase in royalties to 36 million. You have to identify or the agreement in question. Also, the agreement that the Ilandwe government is going to give tax concessions and to allow carry forward of tax losses. All this we are saying they have to be honored. 0% tax rates for the first 2 years, even the bilateral tax treaties. Another agreement which have to be honored is that Imoni is saying it can increase the transfer price of components with the Ilandwe government to 280. All these we have to check and ensure that it is possible to honor all these agreements. So this, you point this out. When you are answering like this, you are answering it well because you are discussing assumptions. And then the question didn't just say assumptions only, it says risks and other issues to be considered. And remember, it has 17 marks on this part. So are you not seeing how you can gobble the 17 marks? Assumptions, you can, even these assumptions, if you explain them the way we are doing it, there are how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Each assumption can give you actually 2 marks. So you can get 12 marks from the assumptions only. And then risks and other issues to be considered. Remember, they are going to use a school. They are going to use a school to run this particular project. Now, there are risks. There are risks that the local community may object to the use of school and the relocation of students from their current school because of this particular project. They may object to this, and it's so important. Another issue is they are saying government will provide the transport for the first 6 months as the students or school children are relocated. But after 6 months, it is now up to Imoni and parents to sort out their mess. So who knows what will happen? What if parents thereafter say Imoni should then take over and continue to transport students to their nearby schools because they've been relocated? Now, under the circumstances, these are additional cash flows that Imoni have to pay, and they are not included in the cash flow forecasts. So these are the issues we need to consider before we make a final decision to invest. Casbet, are you not seeing I am able to get the first 5 marks which I asked you to type and these 17 marks without calculating any NPV?
Yeah, that's correct, sir.
Yes. So we call these easy marks. That distinguishes a student who just knows AFM and a student who knows AFM exam. AFM exam, you should go for easy marks at the slightest opportunity. Like these are easy marks. You need to score these. And then notice, continuing, the question then says, provide the reasoned recommendation on whether or not Imoni should invest in assembly plant in Ilandwe. So this is the reasoned recommendation. That's number 3. Notice I'm yet to work out anything. I'm yet to work out anything. Recommendation. You don't say a reasoned recommendation. You just say recommendation. So what is the recommendation now? The recommendation depends on what I have calculated, but I know I have not yet calculated. This is how you score easy marks in an exam. If you do it this way, the examiner, they know you planned for the exam. So you simply say, Imoni should, you don't know whether it should invest or not invest. So leave the word not, space for the word not. Invest in assembly plant. You do this before you've calculated anything. Because this you can write with clear conscience, where your mind is. Whilst you are typing, you are thinking how to work it out. Imoni should invest in assembly plant in Ilandwe. I've said should. There's a space for not if NPV is negative in Ilandwe. However, this decision, however, is evaluated. Is arrived at. Let's say should be arrived at. Should be arrived at in light of assumptions discussed above, comma, financial case in appendix 1 as well, comma, risks, or you can say as well as other issues identified, as well as risks and other issues that I have identified. So you have that. So there's space for this forward not. If we find it should be, we just delete the space. So we have left the space. If we find that it should invest, we delete that. You are done. It's a matter of deleting. Now appendix. So all this is done in the word processor. Report is written in the word processor. You don't write a report on Excel. I'm doing this for expedience purposes because I can't be switching the tabs to say I'm now going to Word. It may rather turn out to be clumsy. So continuing, appendix 1, NPV estimate. Appendix 1, it's like NPV estimate. NPV estimate. So we now have to find NPV estimate for the investment in assembly plant in Ilandwe. So it has got 4 years. So you say year 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I told you what you do first. You first evaluate cash flows. You first evaluate cash flows in I said you evaluate them in rand millions in foreign currency. You evaluate cash flows in foreign currency like this. So yes, the components are sold into Europe, so they are sales. And then components are obtained from US, so they are component transfers. And then they are assembled in Ireland, so there's assembly costs. And then there are fixed costs associated with these. Fixed costs. And then there is royalties, which are paid, I'm told. And then all these are costs, and then there's tax allowable depreciation. And what do I do? After getting to this stage, I calculate taxable income. Taxable income. Then I'm told that if there is a tax loss here, it can be a taxable income or a loss. It can be a taxable income or a loss like this. Then I'm told by the examiner that if there is a loss, it is carried forward. So I say carry forward tax loss, carry forward tax loss, forward tax loss. It is carried. They are saying if I make a loss in the first 2 years, it will be carried in after year 2. So I'll put this in third year. So a tax loss. Suppose I have a tax loss here, it will be carried forward. It will be carried forward here, meaning a tax loss is used to reduce future taxable income. So what I do is I can, for the time being, sum them up. Okay, sorry. I can, for the time being, sum them up. 170. All right. Let me see. Equals. I say equals sum. This is how you go about it. Please, your exam is computer-based. You may be wondering how it is done. This is exactly how it's done. So I drag it like this. I now have my cells. Then I say add back. I say after I have carry forward the tax losses. I then say taxable income again because the loss I have carried it forward. So I now have this part here. All right. I now have this part here. I can drag it. This you can do on the go because you need to put figures and it works out the figures itself. Then you say tax at, in first year it's 0%, in second year it's 0%, but in fourth year it's in third year it's 40%, in another year it's again 40%, because they are telling us that they won't charge. So tax it's equals minus 0.4 times this figure here. So I'll put my tax like that, and then I say add back tax allowable depreciation. So the tax allowable depreciation that I have here, I'm now adding it back, the same figure. I'm putting a minus because it was a minus. If I want to add it back, I multiply it by a minus. So the tax allowable depreciation, I add them back like this. And then I then say working capital, incremental working capital. I then say initial outlay. Remember, initial outlay for the project is given, and the initial outlay for the project is, they are saying initial outlay is 21 million plus 18 21,000 plus 18,000, which is 39,000, minus 39,123. So I have the initial outlay. And then after I get this to this stage, I now have, even I said add back tax allowable depreciation. There is also add back assessed loss carried forward. Assessed loss carried forward. You know why? You know, this assessed loss that we have carried forward here, it's a minus, but it's a non-cash item. So we just put it here to calculate tax. But after calculating tax, you then need to add it back the same way you add back depreciation. Equals minus assessed loss here. So after you've done this, you now have your net cash flows in foreign currency, which you see it will be super fast to complete it. It will be super fast to complete it. Let us just first do this. So you now have net cash flows. Net cash flows. Net cash flows. These are now net cash flows in Rand millions. Rand millions. How do you calculate this? We are adding from this column through to this column. Add like this. And then you can drag it like this. And then you say, our currency is the US dollar. So we now say Rand per dollar exchange rate. We now want to convert them to dollars. Rand per dollar exchange rate. Now you have Rand to dollar exchange rate. You have them in the question. You come to the question and say Rand per dollar exchange rate here. Can someone, Cuthbert, can you tell me the figures? It's 120,1. You know, this is year 1, but year 0 is what is given as current. Okay. Yes, the current spot, that's year 0. And then year 1 for year 1. So Rand per dollar in year 0 is 101,4. So I put 101,4. And year 1, it's Rand per dollar 120,1. Can you tell me the other rates? 120,1. What is the figure for year 2? Year 2 is 133,7, 142,5 here, 142,5, and year 4 151,9, 151,9. Another thing that you then have to ask yourself is, if those figures were in millions of Rand, it means the figures you are now going to get is millions of dollars. You are now going to get millions of dollars here. Now, remember, you need to know, do I divide or I multiply by this rate? It's important. Remember, these are Rand per dollar. So in other words, $1 is giving you 101,4 rands. So if you are converting from rands to dollars, do you divide or multiply, Cuthbert?
We divide.
We divide because dollars are fewer. It's like $1 is 101,4 rand. So if you are converting from rand to dollars, you must get fewer dollars. So you get it by dividing. So you say net cash flows in dollars this time. You say equals this figure here, which is here, divided by this. So you have that. You can drag it. You shall see as soon as we are done, it will be done. Then we have got. I told you that where were the royalties going? They were going to Imoni. So royalties, they were an expense in Ilandwe, but who was receiving them? It's us. So Imoni will actually You have these royalties. So there are 36 million. We calculated royalties here. We found the figure for royalties to be 36 million here. 36 million. So we put royalties 36. I told that they are not inflated. You say contribution on component transfers. Contribution on component transfers from HQ. So we shall work those out. And then because these are coming to Imoni, to United States from Ilandwe, you know, Imoni will actually charge you tax because these are separate incomes. So you say tax, actually you say domestic tax on royalties and components. Domestic tax on royalties and components, it's at 20% because Imoni, its tax is now 20%. That's what we are referring to as domestic. So it's 20% of which figure? It equals minus 0.2 times sum, 20% of the sum of royalties plus this, and then it will be negative. Not as soon as we put other figures there, it will be fine. And then we said opportunity cost. Opportunity cost. You have to take out opportunity cost. Opportunity cost are the revenues we lose as a result of the project. Now, this project we are told that these are redundant costs: 20,000, 55,000, 57,000, 59,000. But remember, our cash flows are in millions of dollars. So 20,000 becomes 0, 50 becomes 0. So all these becomes 0, 0, 0. If our figures are in thousands of dollars, all these, they are now 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So there you go. And then what do we do next? We then say we have done opportunity cost, we've done everything. We then find net cash flows in dollars, and once more revise the net cash flows in dollars. Here there is no additional tax on foreign cash flows. Reason, because our domestic tax is, so here we are adding from this line here through to this line, and then you drag. Notice how I told you how we calculate NPV. Remember, we are yet to put cash flows. So you say NPV equals, remember when you are calculating NPV, it's NPV at 12%, at 12% equals, I said you come to this and you say equals NPV, you open bracket and put the rate 12%, make sure you put the percentage sign, comma, and then you highlight figures from year 1, not from year 0, from year 1. You close the bracket. Now you want to subtract year 0 cash flows, which is initial outlay. But year 0 cash flow is a negative number. So if you want to subtract a negative number, you add it like this. So that's your net present value. You know what? If you just do this, even if the examiner says time up, of the 21 marks allocated here, you can just lose 6 if your template is already up like this. If then you just said time up, even without putting anything like this, you tell me which element then does the examiner consider to tell me that I didn't know what I was doing. Already I have communicated to the examiner that I know what I'm doing. The examiner already knows this. So you now have workings. Are you not seeing it? This is how you do it, and this now is not done in the word processor. It's done in the. So you say cash flow focus. Very soon we'll be done. Hang in there, guys. Don't lose concentration where it matters. Just 25 minutes to go. We'll be done. So you still have year Yeah, I don't want workings. I don't want workings where you do workings as if you are still doing F1, where you say working 1, working 2, working 3, working 4. No. Everything should be done on a single working. Like this, I've put my years. So I say units. Units that I want to sell. What are the units? If I can put my units in thousands, like Q, 1, 2, 3. Q here, 1, 2, 3. Let me put my units in thousands here. Right, so I come to the question, what are the units? The units here are 154, 87, 30, 360. So I say 0,15, 0,48, 0,73, 0,36. Why am I putting units this way? It's because my figures are in millions. If the figures were not in millions, I would put units as they are. So if I want to put 150,000, I put, these are in millions, I say 0,15, 0,48, 0,73, and 0, then I say selling price. Selling price per unit. What is the selling price per unit? It's inflated, remember, inflated. How you inflate selling price, you come to where they are talking about selling price. They're saying this current selling price is 700, and this price will increase by EU inflation from year 1 onwards. So you need to come to EU inflation. EU inflation is 5% for the next 2 years and 4% from year 1, from year 3. So you are inflating 700. So you say 700 times equals 700 times 1,05 for the next 2 years. So if I then say equals this times 1,05 and then 4% from year 3 onwards equals this times 1,04 from year 3 onwards. So like this, I now have my selling prices. Then what do? I then say sales. I then say equals quantity times selling price times, because this is in euros. This selling price is in euros. So I say times then euros per rand exchange rate. So it's simple as that. So I say equals my sales in units multiplied by selling price. The figures I'm getting here is in euros. After getting the figures in euros, I want to convert them to rand. So I say times rand exchange rate. So I'm saying times 165 in year 1 times 165. So these are my sales. All I do is I drag, and after dragging, I'm now changing the exchange rate. In year 2, it's 180,2, 190,2. So here I say 180,2. In year 3, that's 180,2. In year 3, it's 190,2. 190,2. In year 4, the exchange rate is 200,8. 200,8. So I come here 100,8. So I've obtained my sales. I come here and just copy, and I say equals in my NPV calculation. I say equals this, enter, and then I drag. Notice I now have my sales. You get that? So these figures, I may ignore them for now. Now I have my sales. Then I come to component transfers, step by step. It's easy. We are told that components, because they are thinking to increase price to 280, but we are told that it will increase by US inflation rate. So components will increase by US inflation rate, and US inflation rate is 3%. So all you have to do is you come to the question here and you say components, like this, components. You say quantity. You say quantity, because the examiner will see what I've done, because it's it's a computer-based exam. So I say quantity times inflation, then times 280 is dollars. So I then have to multiply by rand per dollar exchange rate, because I'm working everything in rand. So I come here and say equals quantity times 280 times inflation 1,03. It's 1,03 per year. So I say to the power 1 for year 1. Then times rand exchange rate. Now I have the rand dollar exchange rate, which is here. I have them already. I press enter. So if I drag like this, I now have my components. Simple as that. So I come to the question here and say equals, because these are costs, equals minus. I then link them to the figures I have just calculated, and then drag. As you can see, my NPV is being calculated already. So because I have already linked the formula, so I don't even. Then assembly costs. So these are, assembly costs. Are you not seeing how it's done? Are you not seeing how it's done?
Yes, sir, I am.
Yes, this is how I want it done. Assembly costs per component. Let us first find assembly costs per component. Now, you come to the case here where it's telling you that this is the assembly cost per component. They are saying it's 1596. It's already in rand, so there's no need for exchange rate on this one. It's already in rand. It's per component. But they are saying these will increase by that country's inflation from year 1 onwards. So these assembly costs 1596 are going to increase by rand inflation. And rand inflation is how much? Rand inflation is 22% in year 1, 14.7% in year 2, 9.8% in year 3 onwards. This is rand inflation. So assembly cost per component is 15,960 times 1,22, because it's 22% in year 1. Then in year 2, you say equals this. It's now increasing by 14.7 times 1,147. That's increasing by 14.7. In year 3 onwards, it's 9.8%. So it's this times 1,098. This is per component. This is not like in total. This is per component. So allow me to perhaps shade it, just for you to know that it's per component. Then what now is assembly? It's now quantity times per cost per component. Cost per component. Now assembly in rand millions. So I'm now saying equals quantity multiplied by cost per component, which I've just calculated. And I now have assembly cost per component. And what do? I come to this Notice I'm already wrapping it up, equals minus, because it's a cost. I come here and pick it up, enter, and then I drag it. The thing is calculating NPV on its own. All I'm doing is adding up stuff and everything is calculating itself. Fixed the costs. Now, fixed the costs are actually 4.6, and we are also told that they are going to increase with rand inflation rate. This fixed costs 4.6. So we do the same. We do the same here. You say these are not per unit, so it's a matter of saying fixed the costs, and then put a dash and say inflated. Now, how are we inflating? It's 4.6. 4600 equals 4600 times 1,22, because it's 22% in year 1. In year 2 equals this times 1,147. It's 14.7% inflation in year 2. Here equals this times 1,098. It's 9.8% from year 3 onwards. So I drag it like this. So these are my fixed costs. And what do? I come to the cash flow determination. I say equals minus. I link them like this. Imagine how precise and how succinct my working is. I'm not having working 1, working 2, like fixed the cost is its own working. Something is its own working. Something is no. Then you have one working for everything, and look how neat it is. And then you say royalties. You make sure you are reporting to directors. So royalties are 36 million. They are already in dollars. 36 million. You now understand. And then you multiply them by rand per dollar exchange rate, because you are still calculating cash flow in dollars. So you say equals 36 times the rand dollar exchange rate. We have copied it somewhere. It's here. This, enter. So these are your royalties. You drag like this. You come to your cash flow determination. Cash flow determination, which is this. You say equals minus. You're not seeing it? Simple as that. All right. Enter. So these are my royalties. I drag it like this. And then tax allowable depreciation, we have calculated it as 4.5 already. Somewhere we calculated it somewhere. This one 4.5 every year. So it's equals 25% multiplied by 18, 1, 2, 3. It equals minus, because it's a capital allowance. So you have it like this. Undo. Then you drag it. Notice it's already sorting out its mess. I'm told, so you can see here that there is a tax loss in year 1. It is carried forward for profits made after 2 years. So here is the tax loss. This is carried forward to this. So you now have everything. And then tax at 40%, 40%. So here is where you pay tax, here and here. So everything else is sorted out. Add back third, the tax allowable depreciation added back already. Add back assess the loss carried forward. This assess the loss carried forward is added back here. Are you not seeing the beauty of doing it this way? Incremental working capital. So that's what we want to work on. A single working for everything. The bottom line is work in such a manner. Your workings should be presentable to directors. Don't work as if you are doing accounts for a tuck shop or for someone who sells drinks, Pepsi or something. Work in such a manner that what you are doing is presentable to directors. That's where the issue is. So we have working capital level. Working capital level. you come to the working capital level here. This was on third. So where is the mention on working capital? Here. Working capital for 9.6 million is required immediately, and then the working capital will need to be increased at the start of each year for the next 3 years by a land-based rate of inflation. Meaning this working capital is to be increased by a land-based rate of inflation, which is this rate: 22%, 14.7%, and 9.8. So it's 9,600 in the first year, like this. It's going to be equals 9,600 times 1.22. That's 22%. And in the second year, it's going to this times 1.147. That's 14.7%. In the third year, it's equal times 1.098 and so forth. So we have to drag because the rate is now the same. So there's no need for final year. Why final year? Because they are saying there is a statement here which is saying working capital will be released at the end of the project's life. This statement means it will be recovered. So this statement means your working capital level is 0 at the end. You need to recover it, so you have 0. But remember, working capital level, that does not mean cash flow. Even when we are doing cash flow, you remember, if inventory increases from 20 to 25, you say the cash outflow is the increase, not the 25. So inventory, receivables and stuff, those which we used to do in statements of cash flows, when we were saying the increase, the difference is the cash inflow or outflow. It is the same working capital we are referring to here. So you take incremental working capital. Incremental working capital. It is that which is the cash flow. So in this case, you want your working capital to be 9,600. So you need to invest 9,600. That's the first one. In the second year, it is, you want it to be from 9,600, sorry. 9,600, and you want it to get to be 11.2, 11.7. So there's out, which is a difference. So you drag, you are just taking the increase. You'll notice that in the last year, it will be a positive because it is recovered. It was 14.7 and you have to come to reduce it to 0. So it's a cash inflow. So with this, you come here to your cash flow determination under working capital and say equals, just take the incremental that you have just calculated here. It goes with its sign if it's falling like this. So there you go. And then we are now on contributions on components from HQ. That's where we are now. The last working, contributions on components from HQ. Notice I said our lesson should end at 9:15, and I had skimmed it to 9:15. I know the stuff that I was going to say. Contributions on components. Now, here is how we are going to calculate contributions on components. We have already calculated it as I was reading the case, that the contribution is now 40 plus 8 equals 120 because we have increased the price to 280. When the price was 200, contribution was 40. If you increase the price to 280, you have increased the selling price only by 80. So contribution will be 120 because we are not told that costs have increased also. So contribution is now 120. But because the selling price is being inflated, so contribution will also be inflated. So what we do is you say quantity times contribution is 120 and it's in dollars. So you then say times inflation. Inflated. It's now in dollars because it's now in money. there's no need to multiply by the exchange rate because it's now in dollars. So it's a matter of saying quantity times times 120 times inflation for US is 3%, 1,03. It's not changing. So you say to the power 1 for year 1 and throughout until you get to the end, like this. Then you have it like this. So it's a matter of coming here. I'm now coming here and say equals contribution. So it's a positive cash flow. I take this, I put it there, and I drag it. I had already put my formula, so it has already calculated the NPV to be 147 million. So the NPV is 147 million. So I just come to my word processor here because I had blanks in my report. So